In this presentation, we're looking at margin of safety on a break-even chart. We're also going to look at a few other items, including drawing in areas of profit and loss, or identifying areas of profit and loss on a break-even chart, drawing in a fixed cost line, identifying the break-even point, which is probably the easiest thing to do, and drawing in a new total cost line after a change in fixed costs. A quick word on margin of safety. You could be asked to do margin of safety as a calculation, and if you are, it's a very, very simple calculation indeed. All it is the actual sales that the company is making minus its break-even sales. So for example, if the company was actually selling 200 units per week and it needed to sell 150 units per week to break even, then the margin of safety would be 200 units minus 150. So therefore 50 units per week would be the margin of safety. Don't forget that on a break-even chart, what we're looking at is that everything before the break-even point represents a loss for the company during that time period, and everything after the break-even point represents profit. So the margin of safety is telling us how close we are to that break-even point, how close we are to the point where the company might suddenly start to make a loss. Now there's a few things you're going to need for this particular question. You'll need a pen or pencil and a ruler in order to be able to draw nice straight lines, and you would really need a copy of the Anya's restaurant case study so you can print off the graph. We're going to just be using the graph from that case study, so if you've got a copy of that graph, that would be ideal. This can be found on Moodle in the folder together with all of these presentations. So get yourself a copy of the graph now, and I say a pencil and a ruler. Okay, we're going to be looking at 8 questions in total. We'll look at 4 at a time, and these are the first 4. We're looking at drawing in a fixed cost line, identifying the break-even point, identifying the margin of safety, and calculating the margin of safety. Now, I think it would probably be in your interest to write these questions down or to do a screenshot so that you've got them in front of you. So if you could do that now, please. So again, press pause and just make sure you've got a copy of the questions in front of you as we work through it. Okay, this is the graph that we're looking at. And the first question I've got here is to draw in the fixed cost line. Now hopefully what you will have is a horizontal line which goes from this point here across to the other side. Because fixed costs don't change, therefore you would just expect a straight line going across from there to the other side. Yeah, I know that wasn't straight a moment ago, was it? Okay, but it is straight now. Now, okay, we said to label it fixed costs, so we would want to put in something along the lines of FC. Obviously, you need to do whatever they ask you to do within the particular case study that we're looking at. So we're going to put that one in as FC there, and that's our fixed cost line. Okay, so the fixed costs are 1800. That's your 1500 point there, and each 2 squares represent 100. So what we're saying is that the fixed costs for the company are £1,800 per week, and that's how much that they have to pay regardless of output. Even if they produce nothing at all or sell nothing at all, they still have to pay out £1,800. Okay, the next part is to put in the break-even point and to label A. Now hopefully you will have put that in at the point where total costs pass total revenue. So that should have gone in there. Okay, so the point where total costs equal total revenue is your break-even point, and we're labelling that one A. And the next thing we're going to do is put in a margin of safety, and we're assuming that the company is selling 160 units per week. Now, if the company is selling 160 units per week, then what we would want to do is to put in, this time, a vertical line going from 160 all the way up, cutting through those 2 lines there, both the total cost and the total revenue line. We'd probably also want to put in the break-even line, so let's a line to represent the break-even point, so let's do that now. Okay, and the margin of safety is the difference between these two. So that point there is your margin of safety. So we're going to label that one again. This time we're going to label it as MOS, margin of safety. And there we go. There's your margin of safety. So the first question was to put in the fixed cost line, and that's your fixed cost line there. Second question to identify the break-even point. And the third question was to identify the margin of safety. And that's what we've done here by showing that from that point to that point is your margin of safety. Now, I said earlier that you might be asked to do it as a calculation. As you can see, we're selling 160 units here, but we need 120 units to break even. So therefore, quite obviously, the calculation would be 160 minus 120 equals 40 customers per week. So the margin of safety is 40 customers per week. Your actual sales minus your break-even sales. Always important with calculations to put the formula in first, so just write down margin of safety equals actual sales minus break-even sales, and then putting your numbers. You would get 1 mark for doing that, so just in case you got the numbers wrong, very important to do so. Okay, hopefully you're okay with those particular questions. Now let's have a look at the remaining questions. Next one is to identify the areas of both profit and loss and to label them accordingly on the graph. Then we're going to have a look at what would happen if fixed costs were to increase by £200 per week. Now I'm going to draw in both the new fixed cost line and a new total cost line and label them FC2 and TC2. We'll then have to identify the new break-even point and then identify the new margin of safety. So have a go at doing a few of those things on your own first of all, and then I'll go through them and hopefully you've got the same answers as me. Okay, the first thing that we're looking at here is identifying areas of profit and loss. Now remember that everything before the break-even point represents a loss, everything after the break-even point represents a profit, because profit is total revenue minus total costs, and in this section total revenue is higher than total costs. In this section though, total costs are higher than total revenue. So therefore this section here is your area of profit and this section here is your area of loss. Okay, so to put that in or to label that, you could shade it, but I think what I'll do is I'll actually put the words in. So if we put in their profit and again there, those are your areas of profit. It is possible that they might ask you to shade it in. I think that's unlikely. It's more likely that they would ask you to put the word in. And then, as I say, the other side to it is your area of loss. So we need to put in the word loss down here and I guess down there as well, just to make it complete. But all of this area is your area of loss, where total costs are higher than total revenue. All of this area is an area of profit, where total revenue is greater than total costs. Okay, that was question 5, to identify the areas of profit and loss. Question 6, we've said that fixed costs have gone up by £200 and we need to draw in a new fixed cost line. Now each square represents £500 here, because that's your 1800. So if it's going to go up to 200, we'll be on the 2000 mark, won't we? So therefore we need a straight line going in, a horizontal line going across here, and we want to label that new line as fixed cost 2, so FC2, and we'll pop that just there. Okay, now we've moved up 4 squares here with our fixed costs increasing by 200, and the easiest way to put in your new total cost line is simply to move up 4 squares here, because we also need to move up 4 squares from this point to represent that increase. So 1, 2, 3, we'll put us there. Oops, don't want that, do we? 1, 2, 3 will put us at that point there. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's your 200, which will put us at that point there. We then need to draw a line joining those 2 points. And that represents your new fixed cost line, which we will label as FC2. Sorry, not FC2, total cost I'm looking at. So this is a new total cost line. I've corrected myself there. And we're putting that one in there as TC2, the new total cost line. Now don't forget that all that's happened here is that fixed costs have increased by 200. Therefore everything goes up by 200, but profit of course comes down by 200. So variable costs have not changed, total revenue hasn't changed, but profit has reduced by 200 due to the increase in total costs. And you can see that this area of profit here is lower than the original area of profit because it's been reduced by that 200 quite obviously. Okay, the new break-even point we also need to put in, and the new break-even point is where the new total cost line crosses the total revenue line. So that will be this point here, and we said we're going to label that as B. So let's just put a B in there. And as you can see, you now have to produce quite a lot more to break even than you did before. So let's do a line going down here. Oh, it's not very straight, but a line going down all the way down to the x-axis, which shows you that the company now has to produce a little bit more to break even in order to cover those fixed costs. Because what we're really talking about with break-even chart is how much do you have to produce to cover your fixed costs. So if fixed costs have gone up, we have to produce a little bit more. Okay. Now the final thing that we've got to do is to put in the new margin of safety and call that margin of safety 2. So the new margin of safety will be represented by this space here, because the actual sales of the company haven't changed, but what has changed is this break-even point represented by B up here. So therefore the margin of safety has actually reduced, hasn't it? It's smaller than it was before. I'm going to call that one margin of safety 2 and put that in there. Okay, so just to sum up, the margin of safety represents the number of sales that the company is making above and beyond the break-even point. In other words, it's representing the area of profit that that company is actually making at this moment in time. And the higher that figure is, the better for the company. If it goes below the break-even point, then they're operating at a loss. And what we can see happening here is that where fixed costs have increased, the margin of safety has reduced, so that there's less room for them to reduce their costs without falling into the area of loss. Okay, if you're a little bit confused by that, what I would suggest that you do is have a look at this again, go through the questions again, print the chart off again, and have a go at drawing all these lines in yourself. But hopefully you will have found that somewhat useful.